Father Barnabas Powell is pastor of Saints Raphael, Nicholas, and Irene, Greek Orthodox Church of Cumming, Georgia, USA. Here's Father Barnabas with Sunday's homily.
I was reading about a dear lady that I have heard of most of my life, since I was an early teen up until this point. And the lady's name is Corrie ten Boom, and she wrote a book called The Hiding Place. And Corrie tells the story of she and her sister in a Nazi concentration camp during World War II. And they were sent to the Nazi concentration camp because they had been caught by the Nazis hiding Jews in their home. They were in Holland, and the Nazis were occupying the area. And so they sent Corrie and her sister, I believe her name is Betsy, sent them both to the Nazi concentration camp. And they spent years there, and they were abused by the guards there. And Corrie tells the story about how she was so brokenhearted to see her sister Betsy so emaciated and so having been starved in this camp that her ribs would show on her side, and she was amazed that Betsy could even stand up because of the abuse that they had both faced. And her sister Betsy wouldn't survive the camp. She died there. Due to a clerical error, Corrie was released from the concentration camp days before she was to be executed with the women of her age in the camp. They killed the rest of them, but Corrie got out and went back home. After the war, Corrie ten Boom would speak in different churches around the area. And one day, as she was giving her talk about how God had preserved her and God had saved her in the midst of the horrible evil that was Nazi Germany at the time, and the murder upon murder and the slaughter, the tens of thousands of people, millions of people who were killed during that horrible, dark time in human history. And she would tell how God preserved her and how Betsy had died. And she noticed in the congregation a man who looked very familiar. After the service was over, this man approached Corrie and stuck out his hand and said, "I don't know if you remember me, but I was one of the guards at the camp where you were. I did some horrible things. I was only doing what I was told, but that's no excuse. And now I've become a Christian, and I have asked Jesus to forgive me for my horrible crimes. And I've listened to your talk today, and I wanted to come up to you and ask you, would you please forgive me?" At that, the former German guard, stuck out his hand. Corrie tells the story, and she says, "I was cold. What do I do? I watched these people suffer at the hands of this man. I watched my own sister die because of the abuse that this man pummeled her with. But this man has asked for my forgiveness. What do I do?" She said, "I knew what I was supposed to do, but can I do it?" As moments passed that felt like years to Corrie, she says, she finally extended her hand to the man and took his hand and looked at him in the face and said, "I forgive you." What are we to do with the pain of betrayal and abuse? How are we to deal with the horrible disappointment and feeling of loss that comes from loving someone who doesn't love you in return? How do we struggle with the fact that if we live long enough in this world, someone is going to let us down? Someone is going to mistreat us. Truth is, if we live long enough, we'll probably live long enough to mistreat someone else. What are we to do when someone whom we have not treated well treats us good? How are we to make sense of mercy shown to those who were unmerciful? How are we to understand the call of Jesus to love our enemies and to do good to those who do bad to us? How are we to make sense of that? I confess to you, those were the questions that were going through my mind as I studied our current passage that we're looking at today. You know this story well. Man was demon-possessed. He lived in the area of the Gadarenes. And he was demon-possessed. The man was so out of his mind, the man was so disconnected from reality that he didn't have any clothes on, and he lived in the graveyard. Come to think of it, that's pretty good for the Sunday before Halloween, don't you think? He lived in the graveyard. He was so disconnected from reality. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to run this rabbit trail too far, but the reality is when you are controlled or when you allow the mindset of darkness and evil to control you, you have no choice but to not be in your right mind. You cannot be in your right mind unless Jesus Christ is the center of your life. Outside of Jesus Christ's healing power to make you by grace what Christ is by nature, you will not be in your right mind. You will buy into delusion and falsehood and fantasy. The Fathers constantly warn us about the dangers of our mind gripped by the fantasies of our thinking. That's the reason why the Apostle Paul could say in another place, I take every thought captive to Jesus Christ. If you're going to win the battle over perpetual and habitual sin and wrong choices in your life, you're going to have to get into your right mind. And you're going to have to get control of the way you think. As long as you do not have control over the way you think, you cannot escape the slavery of darkness. The battle is in your mind, my angels. Fight there. So the man is possessed. He's out of his mind. And Jesus casts the demons out of him. And the demons make a request of the Lord. Can you imagine the demons making a prayer request to Jesus? Lord, please don't throw us in the abyss. They know their destination, folks. Don't you think the enemy knows where he's going to end up? Isn't that amazing? And we don't know where we're going to end up. The devil knows where he's going to end up. In the abyss. The place of loss, the place of darkness, the place of disconnectedness, the lonely place. The Fathers say it best, no one goes to heaven alone, but everyone goes to hell alone. Don't send us to the abyss. Let us go into these pigs. And what does Jesus do? The Lord of glory, the creator of the universe, He was there when these guys rebelled. Before time began for we humans. But when the angels rebelled, the third of the angels rebelled against God, Jesus was there. He knew these boys. He made them. What does Jesus do to their prayer request? Go. He answers their prayer. The Lord of glory, the defeater of the darkness, the one who wins the victory over death, grants the prayer request of demons. And they enter the swine, and they run down the hill, and they drown themselves in the sea. And the boys that were taking care of the pigs saw everything. And they went and told. This boy just ruined our entire crop. Our herd is gone. When the people found out that what Jesus had done, they came and they found the man who they all knew, who had been living naked in the cemetery. They found him in his, what does the Scripture say? In his right mind, sitting at the feet of Jesus. This man has been totally transformed by the presence of Jesus Christ. His life will never be the same again. Because of his connection to Jesus Christ, his life will never be the same again. Of course, that's what an authentic connection to Jesus Christ creates in us. It changes us forever. He changes us forever. In fact, that's normal when you come in contact with the Lord who loves all creation, even the demons. The man's life has changed. He's sitting at the feet of Jesus in his right mind. He's got clothes on. And the people of the town see him, and what do they ask Jesus to do? They make a request of Jesus as well. The demons ask him for Jesus for a favor. He let them do it. The townspeople were filled with fear at what they'd seen Jesus do. And you know what they asked him to do? Please leave. Jesus, please leave. We can't handle this. This is terrifying to us. We're afraid of the very fact that you have power over the kingdom of darkness. And you even grant prayer requests of demons. Please leave. So what does Jesus do? He grants their request. He gets in the boat and is going to leave the area. And there's one more final prayer request in this story. The man that was healed, the demon-possessed man who had been set free by Jesus Christ, by the power of the life giver to come and give life where it looked like there was nothing but death, give hope where it looked like there was hopelessness all over the place. This man who was not afraid of Jesus, who loved Jesus Christ now because of the freedom that Christ had purchased for him, he makes a prayer request. Let me go with you. And what is the Lord's prayer? The answer to this man's prayer request? No. You stay here. So let me get this straight. The King of the universe grants the prayer request of the demons. He grants the prayer request of the people of the city who are terrified of him and don't want anything to do with him. But the one guy who had his life changed, he tells him no. If you are going to ever come to grips, my angels, with the pain of rejection, with the pain and the reality that people will mistreat you, that you will be mistreated by people whom you've never mistreated, that you are called to do good to those who don't do you good, to love those who don't love you, to treat well the people who don't treat you well. Instead of the slavery of scorekeeping and the slavery of the perpetual bitterness of anger and remembering grudges, the Church of Jesus Christ offers you the freedom of the man in his right mind. If Jesus is kind enough to grant the prayer requests of demons and those who are afraid of him, and withholds the prayer request of the man who wants to go with him, the answer to your freedom, brothers and sisters, is stop expecting everything to go your way and start finding the grace of God regardless of how life turns out for you. When you love those who don't love you, the pain of being rejected, the pain of being mistreated, when you're asked to forgive someone who has badly treated you, your freedom lies in your confidence that God knows what He's doing. God knows you better than you know yourself. And the sense of peace, regardless of God's answer to your prayer requests, that God knows what He's doing in your life, will set you free to be the man or woman that God has called you to be. The slavery of bitterness, the slavery of grudges, the constant remembrances of past wrongs will not make you a free person. Your only freedom is going to come by letting that stuff go and allowing God to grant you His peace. This is what the church offers you today, my brothers and sisters. Freedom. The freedom to be at rest regardless of the circumstances. And to finally find peace even when you're mistreated. May God grant us the courage of mature followers of Jesus Christ and embrace that freedom. Amen.
You can follow Father Barnabas on YouTube or on our church website at stsrni.org. Thank you for watching.